Okay, we're ready to go, folks. I'm sure Bob will join us anytime now. We'll go ahead and get started. I just wanted to point out that we won't be having, as top of our agenda, set an ESSER 3 public hearing. We'll be having that in August, right, Tom?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yep.
So not this evening. So just be a regular board meeting. And thanks to Cameron, thanks to Mecca if she's out there someplace helping us. Thanks for everybody for joining us. And we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order with a roll call.
Johnson. Here. Wiskus.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Mike Thomas.
Here.
Mark Thomas. Shondell.
Here.
Brasser.
Here. Welcome visitors, and time for public forum. Anything on the agenda, not on the agenda that you'd like to bring to the board's attention? Hearing anything, we could have a motion to approve the agenda. I don't believe there's any changes to that.
Move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Kevin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. We do have the minutes of our June 14th meeting. Sit down. If there's any comments, questions about anything in the minutes, please let us know.
Clearly a question popped up, but I was too slow to read it.
Any question? I'm sorry.
Our board meetings open in person to patrons. Can anybody come to it in person?
Yes. The answer to that question is yes. I apologize if you didn't know that, but feel free to join us in the future.
Face to face is what.
Face to face.
Yes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. Nothing under old business, and we're going to move on to new business. And the first item under new business is approve the 2022 IASB legislative priorities. There's quite a bit of information in our packet. I wanted to mention last year, the priorities that we passed on to the association were related to preschool, mental health, supplemental state aid, and expanding educational opportunities. Those were the 4 items. I noticed for some reason they seem to have changed their format this year. Usually they number the items, and I didn't see that they were numbered this year. I even went to their website to see if I could find the listing with numbers, and I couldn't find that. So for some reason they just have them in a different format this year. I don't know if anybody has any suggestions about sending on to IASB anything different than that we recommended last year. Of course, the supplemental state aid is just to ask that the state set a rate that sufficiently supports local school districts and that they do it in a timely manner. The preschool support funding, continued funding for 4 and 5-year-olds.
So did you want to set those for tonight, or because you said something about August 11th, or is that back to?
I think August is when they're asking for them, but on their website, they do say that if we don't set them, if we want to send them after
Okay.
their deadline, they would still accept them. So it's whatever the board would like to do on that.
If you did want to think about it more, when I'm not necessarily suggesting that, you would have another board meeting to finalize it prior to August 11th.
Do you have any suggestions, Tom?
Well, supplemental state aid continues to be a big issue. 2 or 3 things that I would just throw out in my thoughts is I told our finance committee earlier, we're anticipating across the country a teacher shortage. We've been through this before. So I think anything that IAS can do to help respond to teacher shortage, they should. Well, one of the ways you do that is that you grow starting salaries, which is related to supplemental state aid. So they kind of go hand in hand. The other thing that I've kind of had a personal interest in, but not everybody has it at the same level, of course, is just how we're dealing with some of our kids that are dealing with mental illness and some real challenges. So those would be kind of three things that I would encourage the board to think about and they're kind of in there. The teacher shortage one, I don't think you see those exact words in.
Supports providing school districts with incentives and the flexibility to pay market competitive wages for shortage area positions. That's what you're talking about, Tom?
That sounds like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of is related to that.
Well, I would certainly endorse those three.
Well-
They're very important for us.
Kind of reading through this, how they had legislative briefs or beliefs, then resolutions, then when they get the priorities, there's 5 priorities and they wanted us to give 4. I mean, they've already got, I didn't know how to pull out.
I think this is in last year's packet. That they've given them, and the priorities will eventually be based on what all of the school
Okay.
districts send.
Got it. Well, I don't know if I agree with that, because they have some, no, COVID-19 was going on then, okay, never mind. Got it.
We have 3, and we don't need to have 4, I mean, we just have, if those are the 3 that we like. I know the one that we had last year, and it was helpful, that we had that expanding educational opportunities, and the reason that was there was to express concern about the movement toward vouchers. And of course, the association was not in favor of vouchers, and it was a proposed piece of legislation that didn't end up passing. I don't know how that's the reason we had it on last year as one of our priorities, to support IASB in their decision of not being in favor or opposing the use of taxpayer funds for the creation of vouchers.
Yeah, I remember that. That's the real game changer for us, and that passes.
Glad you mentioned that, because that has become, because we do have open enrollment that's been in place, there's a choice there. And there's public entities where people can, even our parochial schools do not necessarily not receive any tax dollars, because they do. But the voucher thing where a family just says, I have 3 kids, I want my $7,000 apiece, send me a $21,000 check, and that's it. That's all the credibility, the accountability there is with it. So you might wanna think about the voucher thing.
Yeah.
Wait a minute,
I think
they
that-
could get that in homeschool?
I'm saying the voucher system is that would be my definition of how that would work. What is you just take the dollars that are given to the school district and they're reallocated to the family. I gave you the 3 kids, $7,000 apiece, without any accountability at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't be in favor of the voucher system that just pays somebody to homeschool.
Now, homeschool, there's not hardly any accountability either, but they don't.
That's what it sounds like it would be.
It could be
Yeah.
if it were passed.
So if somebody wanted to go from a public to a private school, and the payment was made directly to the private school, there's at least accountability of the funds, where if it's paid to the family, there's no accountability.
There's hardly any
I'm not in
account.
favor of an unaccountable system.
I would hope that we wouldn't be.
Would we like to add that one just for a fourth?
Sounds like four good ones to me.
Lisa, we'll just have to see how they want us to communicate that market competitive wages one, since there's not numbers assigned to it. We probably need a motion to do that. Is that a motion, Mike?
Yeah, but the
Okay.
motion for the supplemental state aid, the mental illness, teacher shortage, and voucher systems.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed say no. All right, the next item is approve the bid for garbage pickup for 21-22 school year. We have one bid.
Motion to approve the bid for garbage pickup.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. We have approved 2021-2022 fuel bids. Information in our packet. Recommendation to stay with what we've done in 21 with MFA and Bratz.
So how do we fuel buses? Do we fill up tanks and they?
Yeah, it's over here. We
So
don't.
that's where the MFA comes from? And then all of the passenger vehicles go over to Bratz?
Okay, I wanna make sure that's right. Tim is with us, I think. Is Tim there? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you hearing that conversation about the fuel bids?
We have tanks here, Kevin, that
For the buses.
MFA comes, fills up, we fuel all the buses right here.
Would it make sense as a project going for a year from now to have an unleaded tank?
We have an unleaded, we do have an unleaded tank because some of our buses are unleaded fuel. So we have a diesel and unleaded.
Okay.
Someone like to make a motion regarding the fuel bids?
Motion to approve the fuel bids.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. We have our second reading of board policies 505.7, 505.7R, and these have not been changed from the first reading, but of course they are in our packet. There's a nice summary before them. Does anybody have any questions about these since our last reading? We could have a motion to approve our second reading of those board policies.
I move to approve the second reading of the board policies listed.
Thank you, Brooke. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Any further discussion? Those in favor say yes.
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 Any
Yes,
opposed?
sorry.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, thank you. The next item is approval of central lease agreement, which we have in our packet.
You should have had the first sentence or June 30th as the start date. That didn't get in there for some reason. I have that though, on one that was sent back to us that had been signed by them. So, and again, Mike Craver was the one that put all the language together for us.
Looks like it had all the rights.
I move to approve the central lease agreement.
Thank you, Brooke. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Question on it,
Yep, we got a question.
is on this deposit, the security deposit. So the rent is $3,900 a month, 3 classrooms. But on the security deposit, it says some not to exceed, or some of 1,300 not to exceed 2 months rent. So the 1,300 is only for one. The way that, I mean, we're getting rent for 3 classrooms, but the deposit's only for one.
I don't think it's a big deal, it's just a damaged deposit. What I've always seen is everywhere, most places I've been is, you get 1 month deposit, but having helped a lot of my kids get apartments in places like Kansas and stuff, their deposits are a lot less than 1 month's rent. It's been kind of surprising, so to me, I don't think it's a big deal.
I guess I just didn't know about the language in it, not to exceed 2 months rent.
I think that's state law. I'm not sure.
Alright,
If Mike wrote it, I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
concerned.
But I was a little surprised to see that it wasn't 1 month's rent. But I've been seeing that in metro areas where the security deposits are less than 1 month's rent. Which has been surprising to me.
and I kind of thought the same, I just, because we were initially going 2 classrooms and then came to 3, so I didn't know if the 1,300 were based off, you know what I mean?
And what they essentially did is they said, well, we showed them what was available to them. And rather than taking the 3rd full classroom, they just wanted the reception area in the principal's office. But they said, but that's fine. We're just gonna consider that a 3rd space for $1,300, although it's considerably less square footage wise. But they said it was fine, and
If they're happy, we're happy.
if they're, because whatever they need. And so they're taking care of it, they're cleaning up and so on. So I think we're,
$16,000 that we wouldn't have for an empty building, so.
All good.
and it's a good gesture for a partner in the community that's doing some work.
Okay, thanks, folk. I think we had a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Our next item is approved contract amendment and change order for the chiller. And I'll put either Tom or Lisa on the spot to explain this, and it'll apply to the other ESSER related items there.
You gonna
Sure.
speak to that?
So after the bidding process, we found out that we were getting a large sum of money for ESSER funds, and then we found out after that we could put that towards any HVAC projects. So through a lot of planning, we decided to do that with the chiller, and you'll see later with the HVAC with Howard. And so since it was after the bidding process, we found out we had to pay Davis-Bacon wages. So this change order is to pay those Davis-Bacon wages. So in order for us to pay for these projects with our ESSER funds, we have to pay Davis-Bacon wages. And in order to do that, we had to have a change order on the bid, because when it was bid, it was not bid with Davis-Bacon wages. That makes sense.
And to add to the confusion, we didn't, at the time of the bids, we didn't know that we could use ESSER funds, I don't think.
At the time of the bids, we didn't even know that we were getting that much,
Yeah.
and we didn't know that we could use it, and
We didn't know even about the Davis-Bacon, but it actually is working out pretty well.
It's working out real
The
good.
finance committee recommends yes.
So,
it will free up money to spend in other areas.
Motion to approve the contract with the amendment and change order for the CHS chiller project.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Same item, similar item, sorry. Approved contract amendment and change order for the Howard Phase 1 project. That's for the same reason that Lisa just explained.
Move to approve the change order for the ESSER funds to pay for the Howard HVAC.
Second.
That is just Phase 1, right, Lisa?
That's correct.
Okay. I read that differently. Okay. Motion and a second to approve that contract amendment and change order. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. We have next item is approve a change order for the athletic complex project. This is one that we're already have talked about. It's the, for the soil stabilization.
I move to approve the change order for the athletic complex project.
Brooke, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed say no. We have an induction coach consortium contract agreement for 21-22 in our packet.
I'm not sure what that is. Can you help me out with that?
Rhonda is with us, and she will help us out with that, because she.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to explain and answer questions. This is for our induction coach for our beginning teachers. Joan Mobley is who we contract with for that through the Great Prairie Consortium is how we got started with this program. She mentors our beginning first and second year teachers or a new teacher that comes to the district for their first year to make sure they get off to a good start. So it's required in Iowa that all beginning teachers have a mentor. So this is part of our teacher leadership, and it's paid for out of the teacher leadership funds, that 3116 funds that's set aside for that purpose.
So that, I mean, can you tell me what they do? I know we have a
Yes.
teacher leadership program, but I didn't know it was involved them.
Yeah, she's been doing this probably, I think this will be her 4th year of doing this. Before we had her contracted, we contracted with Stephanie Vidito. She's now an administrator in another district. So what they do is they are free to work alongside the beginning teachers in their classrooms. They meet with them every week. A variety of different things that they do. She also has monthly mentor meetings. Once a month, she brings them all together and she goes over different things that they need to know as a new teacher. Like one of the meetings, I'll just give you an example because I'm involved with one of them. She has me come in and explain lane changes and the salary schedule and how that all works. So they are aware of how to do that when they decide to start taking other classes or if they decide to pursue a master's degree. So she's invited other people come in and visit with them about a variety of topics as new teachers. Her main duty is she's kind of on call 24/7 with them. She's really good at it. She makes herself available to them, even though it's not always during the school day. She, was a teacher herself, so she understands. Sometimes they need you at night and not during the day to coach them through things. Works with them on lesson planning, works with them on some of our different programs. She's gone to some of our professional development, so she's helped them with implementing some of the things we have going on in the district.
What does she do that are the, I'm gonna get the term wrong, instructional coaches? Isn't this something that our instructional coaches should be doing?
It's similar, but she works specifically with the first and second year teachers. So she does a little bit more than what they do as far as they aren't necessarily contracted with teachers whenever. Like our teachers don't call our instructional coaches on the weekends or things like that. She works with them, particularly with the beginning teachers. But our instructional coaches have filled in and helped with that before. She also has what they call triad meetings 3 times a year where she meets with the new teachers and whoever their supervising administrator is. She has meetings with them to make sure that they're working on the goals that their principals want them to be working on.
It's a really powerful opportunity. I'll tell you, from having 8 new teachers in my building, Joan is sometimes there at night with teachers. She is sitting down with the teachers and working on a goal from the standards that the state, all teachers are evaluated from. If a teacher's struggling with what they feel like understanding the core, Iowa core, Joan might set up a meeting with the instructional coach and have the instructional coach come in and do some observations as well. She might recommend that she meet with either the building principal or with another coach who might know of a teacher who's doing something very, very well, so that recommend that that teacher could go observe another teacher. I can think back to a couple of years ago, we had a teacher who really was struggling what she felt like with classroom management. I don't know that I felt like she was struggling with classroom management at all. But when she visited with Joan, what it kind of come down to is she was just overwhelmed with all the new things that a new teacher comes with. And Joan just kind of helped her chunk that down and work on a goal a week. And at that teacher's end of her 2-year time period, she said, I don't think I would still be in teaching if it weren't for Joan Mobley. And she did work a lot with with our instructional coaches as well, but it is very much aimed at helping, just kind of what Tom mentioned earlier, helping make sure those people who are new to the field, that they get the support that they need to really be able to dig in and say, hey, this is for me, I can handle this. So Joan really has been instrumental, I would say, at Lakeview from the number of teachers that she's served in our building.
One of the other things we can show with our teacher data that we look at with the kids and student achievement with our screeners, our beginning teachers don't really skip a beat when they hit the ground running. Their data looks just as good as some of our veteran teachers. And like Terry said, we feel that has a lot to do with having a coach in there with them every week, working through some of those things that they don't teach you when you go through teacher school. So.
Thank you, Rhonda and Terry. More questions, folks?
Motion to approve the induction coach consortium contract agreement for 21-22.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. We have approved athletic admission prices. Is Rich with us? Or-
Rich is with us, and he can give us a little background on this. Rich?
Yeah,
Go ahead, share anything on the admission prices that you would, Rich.
so the conference got together and kind of decided it's best for us all to be on the same page when it comes to conference prices, and we all agreed with that. The state this year has decided that in football, which is a state decision, not anybody else, they're going to go $5 across the board for adults and kids. The conference got together, ADs, and thought that might not be a bad idea to do for all varsity athletics. The rest of the prices, I believe, are the same as we've always had in our school district, and they're very consistent with what the other schools are doing too. But we all did vote to take this to our board and see if that was worth approval.
Thanks, Rich. Any questions for Rich? We could have a motion to approve those admission prices.
I move to approve the athletic admission prices.
Thank you, Brooke. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. For any further discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, say no. Thank you. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Approve activity fund transfers to take care of negative accounts. This is something we do on an annual basis. Lisa, anything to share?
I think it's just all there in the spreadsheet.
We have a spreadsheet there in our packet, folks.
Motion to approve activity fund transfers.
Thank Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, say no.
I will say that number is surprisingly low considering the lack of attendance and gate.
I don't think we got any support for QR codes.
I didn't say it would happen now, but it will happen.
It will happen, yeah.
Not this year, but next year.
Well, there are schools that are implementing it for this year, yes.
We'll use
I mean,
QR
here.
codes at the, I think, state game here, as set up at Parker.
There you go. It's coming whether you like it or not, boys.
It's coming. I'm ready.
We have handbook changes for, or handbooks for 2020 and 2020, 21, 22, right? Yeah, 21, 22.
Yeah, that is.
Typo. I don't know if there's we appreciate you including them all in our packets. I don't know that if there's the best way, Tom, to go through them. It just, if there's anything that we could go, anything Matt wants to point out or Karen wants to point out. I mean, there's just a lot of information there.
A lot of information and obviously internalizing all of that, but what I'd say is high school is at the top there, student handbook. Any profound changes from last year or last time, I guess Matt could address those and then we can go to whatever's next in the pile.
There are no profound changes to the high school handbook. Really, the two changes that I would think would be of note would be number one, just there's some verbiage in there on snow days that will switch to virtual learning after 3 days of canceled school. And then also just our bell schedule is changing with our start time being 8 a.m. and our dismissal time being 3:20. We will also have a daily advisory that is scheduled for each day. So the schedule at the high school changed a little bit. Those are the only two things of note.
Any questions for Matt? Karen, are there any changes you'd like to point out to us?
No, there are no real major changes. No policy changes. I would have brought that to you. Just cleaning up some language that we wanted to make sure was proper English, and maybe we missed the typo, but other than that, nothing major.
Any questions for Karen that you noted? Thanks, Karen. Our Lakeview handbook.
Julie and I went through that, and I think we both felt the same way. You know, it's just the first time that we could look at it from the eyes of a K-5 building now that we'd all been in there a year and survived it. So we, just went through and cleaned up some things, thinking, what did we learn last year that we want to plan for this year? But no major changes as well.
Questions for Terry or Julie? And then Julie, our preschool handbook.
I just added some information for 3-year-olds and kind of separated that out between what was already in there, but most of it covers what 3-year-olds need as well. DHS requires a few extra things, like a biting policy was added. It's just how we would handle that, and that was recommended through DHS, and I wrote it from their policy. So that would be the biggest change. But just adding those 3-year-olds, there's a few extra things that needed to go in there, but other than that, we made a lot of changes last year so that it followed the voluntary preschool program better.
Thank you, Julie. Any questions for Julie? Thanks. If there aren't any questions, then we could have a motion to approve those handbook changes for the coming school year.
You have the virtual academy one.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I missed it. Holy cow.
Yes.
I'm scrolling, my fault.
I thought it looked kind of rigorous, but good place to start.
Anything to, is Mecca with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Mecca, sorry about that, my apologies. Anything that you'd like to point out? Of course, it's brand new for us, but I don't know if there's anything you'd point out that we haven't seen.
We've updated some language in there with the company that we're going to be using, just based on having some experience this past summer with our booster courses. So just things in terms of support systems that will help our students that we've learned that are available for them. So again, we've just changed some of the language in there. Other than that, it's new. And, we're looking forward to seeing it going.
Anyone have any questions for Mecca on the Virtual Learning Academy handbook?
Motion to approve the handbook changes.
Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Thank you, Brooke. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed say no. Thank you, folks, for putting those together and including them in the packet. Appreciate it. We have, we're at personnel business procedures. We have resignations, transfers, employment contracts. We have one letter. I don't know if everybody received a copy of it. It was hard copy there from Taylor, and I'll mispronounce Taylor's last name, Busso.
Did everybody get one?
Did you get the?
Knowing the name's fine.
It's a rescinding of a resignation there.
Just coming back.
And so I don't know if there's specific questions about, sometimes we take these, oftentimes we take these as a group, but if there are specific questions, we certainly want to address those.
But that's just a general question, like, so when it comes to like the coaching and the step, what's the steps in coaching? What's that based on?
Years of experience.
Years of experience? Okay.
Do we have all of our slots filled, Tom?
We have I think it was trap shooting that we haven't filled, but we held off on that by design because it isn't until next spring.
Yeah.
Slots, we're
For teaching.
teachers. We're short a special ed. Help me, folks. Nod is a special ed teacher, and is that it? As of now, we just got things resolved today on our tag program. So I think that's it on a special ed position we don't have.
Yeah, at what level would that be?
That's secondary, middle school and high school.
Okay.
Coaching, Rich, our fall coaching positions, do we have any vacancies there?
We don't. We should have everything filled if everything gets approved tonight. And I think the only resignations we have are for it's into the spring and summer that we'll have to look at filling.
But the special ed is a challenge for us.
Yeah, oh yeah.
To find staff, but we just keep working at it and try to look at different alternatives. And I think Matt was making some phone calls even today about who may be out there. So we'll just keep working at it and so on. But it's, again, it's, I guess my best example, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but it's pretty darn important that we have good teachers. And it's pretty darn important that we have a pool of good teachers to choose from. And I think Terry Schofield said in one of her messages when we were talking about this is that if you'd have had a third grade teacher or second grade teacher, we'll say 10 years ago, Terry, you'd have had 65 applications. These are just shotgun type things. What did we have for one of our lower elementary application pools, Terry?
For our fifth grade job, which is the only classroom setting we had 7 applications.
Tom, I would chime in at the high school level. PE and social studies were very difficult to fill and were only filled because of networking. We knew people and had to reach out, and that's very abnormal for those positions.
Usually PE is probably one of the easiest ones to fill.
And social studies, all coaches.
Yeah, and so it's,
Do you feel we're competitive, Tom?
yeah, I think we're probably competitive in, you know, and I could be wrong on this, but I'm not so sure people will take a job or turn down a job because there's $1,000 difference in it or $1,500 difference in it. I could be wrong, but you know, when you prorate that over 12 months, is it a difference maker in somebody's standard of living? So I think sometimes it's your benefits, and I think it's the culture of your district, and I think it's what they feel when they're here, how well they're supported. A lot of things that go on, but I'd love to be the highest paying teacher salary district in the state of Iowa, and you probably would too, because. But so we just have to continue to work at that. That's why, and again, without getting in the weeds too deep, you know, we settled this year and in a relatively easy fashion, but we really actually gave them everything we could, and because of the supplemental state aid.
Yeah.
So if we were getting supplemental state aid, Mike, at the level of 6.5%, 7.5%, things would be different for us, but they're not right now. They've been below 2. So.
Okay.
I just want to mention, Shirelle Johnson, she, after this was printed, she decided not to take the job, so
Oh,
taking
So
her
take
out
her
there.
off, okay.
Motion to approve the personnel and business procedures with the exception of this and
Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
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 Any opposed say no. Takes us right through committee reports. I don't know if we had a finance committee meeting, and I'll just mention quickly, we had Amy Gunnerman came in with and reviewed our property and liability insurance premium coverage and premium. We had a little bit of an increase, a little bit. Relatively speaking for us, it was quite a bit. You have it right off the top of your head, Lisa. I'm looking through my papers here. I think we're about it was a 14.35%, but Amy went over the reasons why it's, we were at the lower end, and Brooke and Kevin jump in here, of what EMC anticipated for their school group. Of course, they had damage related to the derecho, and then one of the impacts on ours was adding the additional value of the property at Lakeview. Impacted us. So Amy did have a suggestion that the finance committee asked her to pursue further, is increasing our deductible for an associated decrease in our premium. And I think, what'd she say? We have a current deductible of $1,000. So Amy was suggesting 2,500, 5,000, maybe even we asked her to look at 10,000 because you were getting quite a substantial reduction in your premium by doing that. So she'll get back to us with that, with those numbers. And we were pretty much inclined, I think we were all in agreement that the 5,000 deductible sounded good, and we wanted to see what the $10,000 deductible.
size of operation we got, 10,000, not much.
It's not, and it was.
Could be a significant savings.
Yeah, Amy thought we could be $18,000 reduction in premium.
Have we had any claims in the last couple of years?
Amy mentioned that.
2019 was hail damage.
Hail damage, yeah.
We kind of looked at it, if you got a premium reduction worth twice the value of deductible, you have to have 2 claims to break even.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the threshold we discussed.
Based on our history, I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen,
But
but we're pretty good.
We talked a little bit about the financial aspect of the property items that we're addressing in the closed session. And we talked a little bit about that, how to make some positive progress on support staff compensation package, schedule, package, how to best go about improving that aspect of our compensation for those members of our team.
With the improvement at the, I guess we're calling it the stadium, is that gonna?
It'll have an impact, yes. So that's not.
Amy mentioned staying on top of that because she thought we had pretty low coverage right now. So we're gonna have to adjust that.
That'll be an added one.
Yeah, that's not in right now, Mike.
Yeah, okay, so.
Okay.
A lot of the increase came through Lakeview, and with raising the deductible takes off what we think would take off, we're gonna kind of get low single digits overall rate increase. So in this environment, it sounded pretty good.
That was pretty much the extent of the finance committee. I'm sure Lisa will put together some notes for us on that. Thank you for doing that, Lisa. Going to financial reports. Lisa, you put a note there. I don't know if you want to say anything more about your note. You don't have the ISFIS reports in right yet. You're just waiting. You're going to wait for the the year to close.
Yeah, we'll still be booking things in August and early September, maybe, but I just don't want to give you a report that's not final. So.
Okay. And does anybody have any questions about any of the bills?
Motion to approve the financial reports?
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the financial reports. I did have a question I wanted to ask. That's all right. Perhaps direct it to Cameron or Mecca. On here, we purchased some devices, if I understood one of the bills correctly. I just was curious what those were. Dell Chromebooks?
Which ones are they?
I have Dell Chromebooks, $94,000.
Yeah, so that was, we got approved for $150,000 from the Esserman to buy Chromebooks, so we went ahead with, well, I estimated around 600. We ended up ordering, or we're gonna be ordering about 550 of them to fit in that 150,000. So that's just gonna replace some of the older ones, using them all year long. Kind of took a toll on them whenever the kids carry around as much, so it's kind of a learning curve, so we're getting all the old ones out and trying to get all new Dells in. We did last summer, we got Dells in. So that puts us around 900 Dell Chromebooks we got.
Thank you for staying on top of it.
And thank you for opening up all of those boxes and getting them started.
The company actually comes and opens the box.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Well, you can still thank them.
Well, thank them for doing that,
Yeah,
so.
I'm very happy about it.
That's a phenomenal amount of work for you to bring those on board.
No kidding. No kidding. And to keep them running. Yeah. All right. Did we have a motion in a second? Sorry. If there's no further discussion, could all those in favor say yes?
Yes.
Any opposed, say no. Tom, anything you want to share before we move into?
Can't remember if I told you this, but I want to make sure it gets public, is that we have to have an opportunity for our constituents to experience a face-to-face board meeting, and that will go on. We can still do Zoom meetings, but if they want to come to the room and have a face, so we'll start doing that in August probably. And we have to do that. Couple things this week. We have another meeting with the Howard Project. That's at 1:00 on Wednesday. The track meeting is at 10:00 on Wednesday. The nice amount of rain that we've gotten does not contribute to progress at the track.
They were doing so well.
They were, and it is what it is, and I don't like saying that, but we will, they were down there, they came this morning, and I was just curious to know if anybody was gonna show up. They did, but they didn't stick around very long. Then when I went down about 3:30 or 4, they had 3 people down on the track working, waiting around in it, so I think they're trying to stay with us on that, so. But I hadn't been in Howard on that particular project for 2 or 3 days, and they're making some nice progress down there. I mean, it's pretty torn up and nasty and so on, but they're making some good progress on that. So, and a lot of workers around. That's one little signal to me that things should be happening. And I think they had 3 or 4 bi-state trucks there today, and 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 winger trucks there today, so that's moving down. Tim, the roof, is that completed at Lakeview with all the shingling?
Yes. Shingling is done. They've got to do some final cleanup, and Doug from FRK is gonna come down and inspect everything, but the shingling's done. The high school science wing will begin July 26th, and we'll go on through August. They should be done with that by August 13th at the high school.
And there were 4 trucks at the high school. I don't think you just said that on the chiller project.
Yes, I'm hoping it should be up and running here within a week or maybe week and a half. They're getting close.
Making progress, and the only holdup is just got to get sunshine.
What day is the Howard office is supposed to be back together?
That'll be the last thing that's back together, the Howard.
Is that gonna be before classes start?
It will not be.
I didn't think so, okay.
It will not be. The priority is the 8 classrooms.
Right, okay.
They gotta be working.
Cause I went in there Friday just to see how it was going, and I had timeline questions, cause I couldn't remember them, so. It didn't seem like they could put them back together in 6 weeks, so.
Tom, do you know how did we get so far behind on Howard? Was it the asbestos thing?
Yeah. It was the asbestos for one thing that did shut us down. Well, I don't know if it shut it down completely, but it was attributed to asbestos. But I don't think, when we went through that, and I'm operating on recollection here, so I don't know I'll be perfect on it, but we got a little behind at the beginning with getting our bids in. And that was one thing. I think we're probably about 2 weeks behind on that. But we've always known, I think from right up front, that it was gonna be hard to have our main entrance done with the offices and stuff. So that'll be plastic off. We gotta have those classrooms done. But the classrooms is really the HVAC, the heating and cooling, and then that panel where they set in, those have to be finished off. But as far as ceilings and walls and floor, Tim had told me the other day is he's making every effort to get our crews taken care of, because that will be a certain degree of urgency, because all of our folks that do our summer cleaning will have to be transferred. So we're trying to get everything done at Lakeview where we don't have any disturbances right now, at the high school where we don't have any disturbances right now. So that when Howard they move out of where the space we need for August 23rd, that'll have plenty of time to get cleaned up. One looking for a special ed teacher. Trying to think of those other types of things that are out there. I don't think I have anything else, Marty.
Thank you, Tom. Any more questions for Tom? Then, next item is our closed session, and then we'll go ahead and, roll call, vote order, please. Okay, so we're gonna, need to have a motion to go in closed session. Apologize for reading, so much, but pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.51J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property. The minutes and audio recording of the session closed under this paragraph shall be available for public examination when the transaction discussed is completed. Someone make that motion?
So move, go into closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is a roll call.
Johnson?
Yes.
Wiskus?
Yes.
Moore?
Yes.
Mike Thomas?
Yes.
Bob Thomas?
Yes.
Shondel?
Yes.
Brasser?
Yes. We're in closed session now, then Cameron, you could turn us off.